It's time for the Mohney Show. High atop the third story of the historic Gibson House overlooking beautiful downtown Centralia. The star of the show, Steve Mohney.
Yes. And it's the late February edition of the Mohney Show, and we're out on the street again, as you can probably see. We're at Maximilian Motorsports in Chehalis. Maximilian, thanks for being on the Mohney Show.
My pleasure.
And we continue to go around to various businesses in Centralia, Chehalis, Lewis County. In fact, we're heading back into Chehalis here in a while, and we're going to hit a store that we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. But this is super cool. So this is like a wonderland for motorheads. And you've been doing this. How long have you been in the business?
Well, this company, 30 years, so a couple days.
Wow.
So.
How long have you been in this location here?
Oh, I don't know, 18?
Yeah, right around there.
I don't know. I'm one of those people that has a hard time. I don't look in the rearview mirror much. I just check that there's no one following me.
Exactly.
You know.
So, I mean, did you get into cars at an early age? I mean, were you really young? I mean, I was probably 4 or 5 years old when I knew I really liked what this whole thing was about.
I've always been passionate about automobiles and got my first car when I was 12. I saved up money for it.
Wow.
And to be fair, a really truncated version, having cars and dealing with them is sort of been auto therapy, pun intended. My father passed away when I was 12, and so that's you either go to the dark side or I've always been into difficult times in life. Cars can bring me back. The world disappears. It's a form of meditation in some regard.
Yes.
And so that's how the passion always is there. So I'm fortunate that I have that opportunity to do something I love. Granted, there's a lot of aspects that are overwhelming and some parts aren't as enjoyable as other parts. But it's a great opportunity to always push yourself because the medium of automobiles is always changing. You could be stuck in 1965, or you can be at today's technology that is just moving so quick. It expands at such a rate that's mind-boggling.
I'm back in the late 60s, early 70s.
And that's okay.
But I'm not fixing them for the vast amount of people.
Correct.
So I could completely agree with what you say about it's the passion, and when you're feeling a bit down. Again, this is what you do for a living, but man, it's fun to complete stuff on a car, isn't it?
It is, and it's you're forcing yourself, especially if you're building a car from scratch or you're dealing with a car that's really difficult. It's a sense of reward. It's not pushing a button and so forth. There's an artistry, and that's in any form. In the artistry that you do, it's enjoyable, but it's frustrating. It's enjoyable, but it's work. It's enjoyable. I always say that a rock star doesn't necessarily like to travel on the tour bus, but it's part of it. So, with this staying relevant with cars, it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of expansion. It's a lot of processes. It's a lot of you're never done. And most people look in life to have a station, attain it, and be able to cruise. If you're passionate about what you do, you never are at that point, and that's okay. Life is a journey with no destination.
Well said. Did you go to school?
Basically, everyone's my teacher. No one's my teacher. I've been very fortunate. I worked at a Ferrari dealership. I worked at a restoration shop. I, worked at a Porsche race facility and so forth. So I've had some great opportunities. But really, my tenure working for other people was very short. And so with that, I'm a voracious self-educator. Again, I learn from other people. But just one of the things that's unique about us too, I'm blessed, is that we don't really learn on other people's cars. So we've owned a ton of different cars. And so with that, it's like, okay, I know about that one and this one and that one. And so you're not learning on it. And so I dive deep on a lot of cars.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you're not dealing with the simplest of, a late 60s Mopar or a Chevy or whatever. I mean, the stuff you have in here, this is complicated stuff, isn't it?
For sure.
This stuff.
Well, and part of it, so cars, repairing them has become very expensive. And why has it become expensive? Well, the root car is expensive. So the more expensive it is, the parts and the necessity of repairing it. So it's the difference of having a mansion or a small house, which is going to be more expensive for the roof? The mansion. So that's a ratio of it. There's far more technology. It's very common for road cars to be four-wheel drive, to have a lot of technology. Heated seats is nothing special. All driver aids is nothing special. Anti-lock brakes, all these things are standard that they weren't in the 1960s. So you have the complexity, you have the expenses. You also have a high turbocharger, super common in cars, and supercharging back in the 60s. That was a rare bird that had that. So you have these many layers of technology. You have the demands of the consumer and the demands of the environment and the demands of safety that have intervened and created a more complex vehicle. And it requires a lot of specialty tools that aren't cost effective. You know, one thing people may or may not be aware of, with onboard diagnostics, everyone thinks, oh, you plug it in, it tells you what's wrong. Ish and no. It's sort of like having blood tests. The doctors say, oh, your thyroid's a problem potentially, or this or that. But is it really that, we don't have to do anything more? It's a lot of times a good pathway to follow, and it gives you some crumbs to which to look at. But really, it's no different than in the 1960s looking at the spark plug and say, oh, your ignition's not right on the money. Let's adjust the carburetor or the timing. And access the information. So there's different levels. People think, oh, I got O'Reilly scan my car. That's totally different than what we have. We may have a $10,000 piece of equipment. Access to the information is very expensive. So now, there's credentials. So case in point, I have credentials to make keys for cars, transponders and so forth, program a lot of the secure things. We are bonded to do that. There's background checks with it. The government is involved with it. So if you're going to be at that level, it takes a lot more. And even if you had the most passionate point, unless you're bonded, unless all these things that the consumer's not aware of, those are very critical and part of that thing. Because people have seen Gone in 60 Seconds, they order up the key or something. You can't do that. You're bonded. You have to follow the processes with it. And some of the information is available, but it's very expensive. Case in point, with the right to repair, Ferrari, I'm going to be really rough with my numbers, to gain access to the service information and being able to communicate with their computers and all, I think it's about $35,000 a year just for the license. Whoa. That's not forever, that's just for that year. Wow. So there's a lot of overhead that's incurred with everything, data, information. So, we're all used that we need to update some software on our computer. Well, that's amortized with a large percentage of people. With the automotive industry, if you want access to that, it's very expensive. And so some of these cars, we're only buying it for a day because it doesn't make sense to spend $15,000 and only need that information 4 times a year. But you have a lot of costs that people aren't aware of behind the scenes that are relevant to it. There's a process for all the security of accessing the cars. We have to meet those standards because in theory, someone could latch on that when we're programming a car and nefarious things could be done. So it's a whole nother level than it was in the 1960s.
Man, oh man, oh man. Yes, it is. With all that being said, so neither one of us have an agenda. We talked about that.
Correct. I thought yours was world dominance.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Well, with a handsome smile like that, how can you avoid that?
Well, yeah. Okay, so you caught me. Electric cars, hydrogen. There's all this talk. I mean, you're now getting into the repair of electric cars, right?
Correct. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, I don't have an agenda. Electric cars, the perfectly wrong answer for some people, just like a gas vehicle is the wrong answer.
Right.
You can't lump things with different needs, and there's a universal fit for everything. And sort of think of it like a one-man band.
Right.
One-man band can play a lot of instruments, but none of them really well.
Right.
And there is no car that fits you, me, Brittany, behind the camera, all of our needs exactly the same. And so I think people are misguided in putting grandiose, painting things with absolute answers, and they aren't. And I think electric vehicles have their place. I think, honestly, hybrids are probably a good compromise for most people. Diesel still is relevant for everything. There's some, hydrogen may have its viability, but that's going to be quite some time out for the infrastructure and the cost to amortization that's necessary for that to be. So, with what they have in California, when you buy or lease the vehicle, they give you like a 35, I'm going to be totally wrong, but let's say it's $15,000 worth of free fuel to help offset that. Okay. And so we've had in the past several years, for 10 years or so, incentives that have skewed the numbers. Very few people look at things holistically. So Volkswagen, which makes electrics, which makes hybrids, and which gas and diesel, which I'm going to say they're going to be a little more honest and they don't have an agenda. The report that they put out a few years ago said an electric vehicle is not better for the environment until about 150,000 miles into it. After that point, it becomes very effective and better for the environment. And I don't know how cradle to grave they're getting. A lot of cars don't make it that far. They get totaled and so forth, or it takes 1 billion years. You know, there's many aspects that very few people are going to be honest and really look at it in the big picture. If you want it to be really good for the environment and you only drive 5,000 miles a year, you know what? What's really best for the environment is probably your old Camaro. Why? Because it's already done its environmental thing. Mm-hmm. You're not producing another vehicle. You're utilizing what's already there. So you're an environmentalist.
I am.
Because you put less than 5,000 miles on your Camaro, that's right? So you're Mr. Green.
But I will say, in some states, California,
isn't that a different country?
They're going after our beloved muscle cars.
Because it's misguided. And here's the thing, but with politicians, they like to say that they initiated something. They know either they blithely decide that they don't want to be aware of the truth. The inconvenient truth is the infrastructure is not there. It's not, I can't make it dictate, and it suddenly is. Because laws, as we know, make people transform them. So they made many acts illegal and so forth, and no one does those things, right? It changes everything. Well, here's the thing. With their mandates, they're actually being negative to the environment in some part. So let's talk Norway. So they have an 80% saturation of new cars that are electric being sold. Initially, when they brought them out, they did things like you could travel in the high occupancy lanes, the bus lanes and so forth. You got, I think, no tax was made on the vehicle, which they have a pretty steep value-added tax, like 20%. So they really incentivized it. And they did some other things as well. Well, now they've created their own animal, is that there's more congestion. They had to lower the bus rates because people were finding that the car was cheap enough to run day to day.
Right.
And so now they've created another problem.
Yes.
And so you have to treat it holistically. And so what they actually are saying, don't buy electric cars, run your gas or diesel car, finish the use of it. That's the best for the environment than just dropping it like a hot potato and moving on to something else.
Yeah.
But people, here's again, if you wanted to be truly your interest was the environment, go buy a used Volkswagen diesel. Mm-hmm. Take the $80,000 extra you'd buy, let's say even $30,000 for a Tesla. You know what? Reforest an area. If you were genuine, that would be your point.
Well, if you were genuine, you'd ride a bike.
Fair enough. That's the most efficient use of energy.
You could ride your bike. You could get a Schwinn orange crate or a lemon peeler.
Right? Yep.
Those are cool.
Yeah.
Or you can just get, whatever you want.
I see a lot of people that do ride their bicycles in Lewis County. Now, it might be due to economics or not having a license, too.
Yeah.
Wait, licenses don't stop people driving in this county. That's another issue.
Your locally owned Napa stores have the parts and service you need for safe driving. Through February, see better on dark roads with night vision headlight replacement bulbs. Save $15 on the 2-pack. Don't get stuck with a dead battery. Claim a $20 gift card with the purchase of a Napa Legend or Legend Premium battery. Start the new year off with an oil change. Save up to 42% on Mobil 1 synthetic oil. Wilson's Napa Auto Parts, open 7 days a week in Centralia, Chehalis, Rochester, Tenino, Castle Rock, soon in Onalaska, and at lewiscountynapa.com.
And with really all that being said about, different types of car, hydrogen, vehicles and electric vehicles, let me ask you this. How do you think they're coming along as far as distance and like maybe a Ford pickup or something like that? I mean, is that going to be economical for folks to run versus, or is that even a question you can answer at this point?
Well, it's such an emerging technology, and a lot of people may have unrealistic time frame with it. Look, if you look in 1983, Popular Mechanics, there was an article about the new batteries that were using plastic, some form of plastic to hold the energy. that never came about. So there's a lot of pie in the sky, and that's, you know, whoever's trying to get the next great thing with everything, you know, and so that's a big factor with that. So
we're taking a couple of pauses kind of here and there as customers walk into the front door. So Maximilian, take us out to the
Sure.
parking lot.
All right.
Let's check out.
let me grab some keys. Sure. Just 1 second.
That's the Porsche, right?
Yes, 911. And the neat thing about cars is there's a story. So the gentleman that owns this now, he was delivered from the hospital in this car.
Whoa.
So that's sort of a cool thing.
Yes.
You know, there's a long-standing history. So that's what I find fascinating. In automobiles, and there's a history and there's a story behind it.
There's a
the
story,
Porsche that's right over there, the red one, the gentleman bought it in 1971. Then it was painted, and then it sat in a barn for like 30 years. And you know, we're fixing it up. He passed away. We're fixing it up for his wife, so she can enjoy it. So it's sort of a touchstone for that. Even to that old Corvette, I pulled out of a barn, and I found the paperwork from the original owner, and he had gotten a pay increase because he was in the military. So I was able to track him down.
Oh, okay.
And so it's neat, those history of these stories. You can't just, you know, new cars is sort of cool, but honestly, there's no story attached to it.
No,
you know,
really. That's really the fun when you're, you know, when you pull one out of a barn like that. You want to know, you know, where it came from,
Yeah.
who bought it, you know, what the history was, what, you know.
that's the humanity.
Yes.
You know, cars can be very cold and sterile, or it can be just ooze with
Well, they
history,
become a part of the
humanity.
family.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people, you know, it's interesting, we'll service a car and we will be the constant over 10, 15 years, 20 years, and it's been through 3 owners, you know, so it's like, I know that car better than anyone else, you know, and so that's sort of fun. And that black car that Brittany's panning right now is what they used in the old TV series of Miami Vice. So.
But not the car.
There were several that were used, you know. So yeah, this would have been a replica exactly like the one that was used in the TV series.
Very nice. And then there's the Mini.
Yeah, like in the original you know, Italian Job and so forth.
It's not like a new Mini that's not completely Mini, but it's
It's the genesis of what the Mini was, and that's what the newer models replicated, is taking on that, you know, sort of idea and construct.
Right.
And I fit comfortably in it.
You drove it to the Music in the Park last year.
Yep.
George Harrison, Beatle, George Harrison. George had his birthday a couple of days ago. Happy birthday to George Harrison. He used to show up at Abbey Road Studios. He'd get out of his little Mini. His little Mini, is that an oxymoron? Little Mini?
It's,
I guess
yeah.
it is. Okay, we're going outside
It's like,
now. Let's.
And actually, Enzo Ferrari owned a couple of them. He enjoyed them as city cars.
It's a glorious day here in Western Washington as we approach the end of February. March 1st, of course, is Friday.
And so we have the ability to fully charge a vehicle, not at a slow rate, but an actual fast rate and so forth, which, you know, and then we have other spots in the shop as well to do it. And then I'll actually open the door here. We have storage for customer cars and all, because when you get to family members, you don't put them outside and say, well, enjoy the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of these specialty cars, you have to wait for parts. There's delays. And, you know, again, if your dog needed a new set of teeth, you wouldn't leave it outside.
No, you wouldn't.
You know.
You would find some kind of shelter for it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I'll open the door and you can take a look a little bit of what we're adding. We're actually adding in some more lifts as well. That's what these gentlemen panned behind you are.
So as far as your charging station, I mean, was that tough to get hooked up, or?
Yeah,
you know?
we had to bring 200 amps extra, so it involved the PUD and all the permitting and everything else to do it.
So basically, it's 200 amps. I mean, that's what a house is running off.
Exactly.
Of. So that's
yeah.
what you need to charge one of those.
Because we want to be able to charge multiple vehicles.
Okay.
And so the shop didn't have enough surplus, you know, didn't have 100 amps extra, because then generally you don't
So
build
how many
something.
does each car? How many can you charge off 200 amps?
Well, generally most of them are threshold stopped at 50 amps. So there's a level 1, level 2, level 3 charging. So level 3 is going to be a 3-phase. We didn't do that, but the high end of the level 2 is generally 50 to 80. And so your home charge one's 15 amps, which it takes like 80 billion hours to do it. So exponentially, it's more effective the more amperage you bring. So 50 would allow a car that's fully depleted, like a Tesla, depending which battery pack it has, probably to be fully charged in 4 hours versus like 48 hours and 15.
It just, part of me being a smart ass here, I pulled the truck over to a gas station, pulled in, and I filled it up in about 3 minutes. So
Yep.
again, I don't know. Funny. Never mind.
Everything's
What
a
do we have
compromise.
here?
Oh, just different cars.
Ooh, T-Bird, is that a 56?
You're close, 55.
55.
Yes. It's perfect. It's for sale. It's perfect for you.
Ah, love it. Love it.
So just some other project cars, Rolls-Royce, and then a Lotus, and so forth, and then, all the other cars.
So Governor 1, tell me about these plates here. You got one on this car, you got
That one, that one.
So they're all, so is that you?
Yeah, there's the RCW allows you to have any plate that the car could have originally had when it was new.
Okay.
And the reason that there's multiples is that the governor used to give them out to people. So I have a collection of them. There's a couple that are actually the ones the governor had. So it's just something easy to remember. And there's a little more to that, but I'll tell you in privacy.
Okay. No, very nice. Now we are in the Maximilian Motorsports service area.
And,
Tell us what's going on here.
well, we deal with a lot of eclectic vehicles and late model cars as well with everything. Everyone's going off to lunch and all. So you get to see the actual dirty, messy part of things. But we try to be very cognizant and make it inviting.
So clean in here.
Well, yeah, I scrub the floor every night.
It's really like, this may be the cleanest shop I've ever been in.
Well, how about the bathroom? You want to see the bathroom?
Well, yeah, I want to
All
see
right.
the bathroom. 'Cause
Okay.
I saw the bathroom, but this is, I hope I don't get in trouble at the house, but I would love to decorate the bathroom like
Yeah.
this. This is awesome. So you got the DeLorean hanging off the wall.
Correct.
There. Where'd that come from?
From a wrecked DeLorean that we had, and actually we have a DeLorean we're converting to Tesla power. So
Nice. And when you use the restroom, you might be out of time. See?
you caught the subtle joke there.
Love it. Now is that really, that's signed?
Yeah. So yeah, no, and this is actually one time at an event with the DeLorean Club, and those are all DeLoreans. The most amount of DeLoreans in Lewis County at one point. Did you know that there was a dealership?
I did.
Yeah.
And I have a story for you right now. It just
Okay.
popped into my head. So Fred Oakes,
Okay.
I was friends with his daughters, but Heather Oakes, we were good friends. And when Fred closed the dealership right there on Gold Street, it was Oakes, Oldsmobile Pontiac
DeLorean.
DeLorean.
Yeah.
He kept one DeLorean and he kept one turbo 1980 or 81 Trans Am.
Mm-hmm.
Put him in his home garage. And so we never took the DeLorean out, but we did take the turbo, like a 4.9 turbo Trans
Correct,
Am.
yeah.
Like, this thing had like 800 miles on it. We drive it around town and just, it was a beautiful car. I'm not sure what happened to it. I don't know where the DeLorean went, but they did sit in a little garage.
The one that we have actually came from about 15 minutes away from here, and had been
Really?
sitting for 15 years, under a cover and so forth. So they're
They're
still out
interesting
there.
cars.
They are.
There's not much poop to them.
No, but with the Tesla drive that we'll have more power than it had originally. It'll be a lot quicker.
Absolutely. But I mean, from basically the father of the GTO, you'd think that John would have put a little bit more.
The sad thing is they almost were going to offer the second level, which was a turbocharged car, and it
Okay.
would have been one of the fastest
Right.
cars in the period. There's a lot of issues with everything.
long story about
It's a
DeLorean.
long story,
But it's an inspiring story. There's some stuff on the History Channel that's really good
Correct.
about John DeLorean and about the whole history of
There's some
Pontiac.
recent movies as well that have been done with real actors.
Yes.
So yeah, very interesting.
So,
So we're always making things better and improving things. You can, with organization and so forth, and so we're organizing things a lot better here and so forth. But most shops don't have everything organized down with
No,
everything and
they
so
don't.
forth. We're reorganizing this, but
I'm not sure
even
how many shops have a floor cleaner.
even a robot vacuum.
This
That's
is-
the industrial RoboVac.
I didn't know Makita made one of those.
Yes, it's from Asia, and
Wow.
actually it's all on top, but even down to, just making sure that everything's, we're fortunate. Sally makes sure that everything's
That's
inventoried and so
European
forth.
stuff. That's,
Yeah, so we're very thorough about making sure we have everything on hand that's necessary to do the job right,
That's a fortune in there.
Well, the barrels of oil are, if we have one, we have two. We always have a backup, so with everything. So we were very
I had a
cognizant of that.
VW when I was, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. I think it was like 10 times. I wasn't used to it being like a domestic
Yes.
car owner for a long time. I'm like, whoa, this is a lot more money than other stuff. Okay, come on out here.
All right. So we have an eclectic selection again. New. It has some various maladies. It's an older Volkswagen, but here's something that's down your vein of cars. So this has a supercharged Corvette motor in it, 0 miles, crate motor, 750 horsepower. Because we've put different cams, headers, and so forth in it. Jason's been working on the motor, and Chris has been doing the wiring and the interior. It's a sleeper, has a T56 manual transmission and so forth. So it's definitely a sleeper. Now the cat's out of the bag, because anyone will see it will know that it's not your Gen 1 Camaro with a 305 in it or something.
Well, it's a 69, so they would have put a 307 in it.
Correct.
By mid-year. But
Yes.
The early ones from late 68 came with a 327.
Yeah, no. Yeah, they had different ones, and you had the Z28.
But if you had the Z28, you had a 302. So.
Or if you could have the Z.
Is this one of the X's? Can I look in here?
Yeah.
Well, it's been quite the tour, and I've learned quite a bit. Now I'm gonna come out here and pick your brain. You know that, don't you?
Not a problem.
It's a car thing.
Not
it's
a
like,
problem.
Oh, yeah, I got to go out and talk to Maximilian. Thank you.
My pleasure, and
And,
to meet the handsome man behind the handsome voice.
Well, thank you very much. And it's good to meet the youthful man behind the Mini.
Okay.
I've heard much about you. Oh, by the way, I've always liked the fact that you pulled off the races out there.
The rally crosses.
The
and all.
rally.
Yeah.
During Chehalis Fest.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we'll come back and visit you again.
Sure.
Thank you for being on the Mohney
Yep.
Show, and we're back after this.
At Tyler Rental, quality equipment and helpful counter pros save you costly delays. For projects big and small, Tyler has Genie man lifts and forklifts, Deere excavators, welders, and generators, plus new tools from Steel, Milwaukee, and Hilti. While you're in the store, shop for hard hats, safety glasses, gloves, hearing protection, and much more. Contractors and homeowners depend on Tyler Rental for selection and well-maintained equipment to avoid downtime. Tyler Rental, 153 Hamilton Road, south of Chehalis.
The Mohney Show is always wandering in and out of different businesses around, Lewis County and Centroy and Chehalis. And we were at Napa about a week ago. Today you might recognize the inside of this store that I've been coming to since I was a little kid, that my mom used to drag me in here. And I can't say it was all that much fun because, at the time I was little and I didn't really love getting shoes. We're at Brunswig Shoes, downtown Chehalis. Bruno's with me. Bruno, how
Hello,
are
good
you?
morning, good, thanks.
So I was asking you before a little bit about the history of Brunswig's. I mean, I remember the store from my entire life. So give us some background when and how it started.
Originally, it started in the late 1800s, 88, 89, great-granddad. He and a business partner started it on Chehalis Avenue.
Okay.
And it went through some changes. I think it was mostly work clothes back then.
Okay.
I don't know about the interim between then and 1937 when Granddad moved it into here. And it's been in this building since 1937. And I think it's been almost always shoes since then. They kind of went away from the workwear and random stuff. You look at some of the old pictures, there's one on the wall. It's hard to tell, but it looks like mostly clothing in the windows. So, and I mean, that's the original location in the 1800s, that top picture and the bottom picture. So, yeah, Granddad moved it here in 1937, and that's what everybody remembers. And I mean, you look around at all the fixtures in here, and they've all been here probably since 1937 too.
Yeah. Did your dad, was he involved in it?
Dad, well, yeah, he when he got out of college, probably in the early 60s,
Okay.
and he, I think, officially retired in 97, but I don't remember seeing him in here much in the early to mid 90s, and then he moved to Mexico in 99.
Oh,
So,
well, there you go.
yeah, I think I've officially been running it since about 95.
So were you, was that something you were always interested in doing? Or,
I didn't know.
Assume
Coming out of high school, it was like, okay, Centralia College and work. And I was taking 16 credits or 17 credits and working 35 hours here. And even Dad said, you're going to have to decide on one or the other. I know which way you wanted me to go, and that's the way I ended up going. Hey, when you're 19 years old, a paycheck's a lot more important than sitting in extended high school over there. But nothing in Centralia College, but for me, that's what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you, I mean, you obviously, did you ever work with your grandfather?
Not officially. I mean, I'd be working down here in high school, and he had retired by then, but he'd come in, and he was, oh yeah, very old school. If he would teach me how to fold the paper back so it doesn't look like anybody ever looked in a shoebox before, so it looked brand new, which I've been doing ever since. There's little things that, I don't think about ever, but yeah, it was Granddad involved in it.
They taught you.
Yeah.
So how have the brands changed over the years? I mean, how have the shoes, the brands, the quality, that type of stuff? I mean, is it a lot different than it was even when you took over in, say, 95?
I think so. Technology especially. I mean, you look at the high-end basketball and running type shoes.
Yeah.
I mean, going back before I did it in the 60s and 70s, professional athletes played in Converse Chuck Taylors.
That's true.
That shoe hasn't changed since then. They're not playing in those obviously anymore. They're playing in, $300-400 tennis shoes. So yeah, the technology has changed. There are improvements there. You can feel it when you put it on your foot. I don't know that anything lasts any longer than it did in the 60s, probably not.
Yeah.
And earlier stuff was made all in the States back then. Now everything's made overseas mostly. But yeah, it's mostly, you can see the technology in it. The cushion, the comfort, the support.
Yeah, I guess they are.
And a lot of that stuff, like Vans, they haven't changed those things since they started making them. Nothing's changed with Vans or Chuck Taylors. They make new versions of them, but the originals are still there, and those things are still uncomfortable, but everybody wears them.
Speaking of Vans, I need a new pair of Vans right now.
We can do that.
So take a look at all these different Vans. If you're in the market for Vans, man, this is the place. Spicoli would love this place.
The women's section.
We will do. I'm going to go ahead and do it. It might offend, but what's this? What's that, man? That's my skull. I'm so wasted. Sorry. Spicoli. You haven't seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Plug it in. It's right.
Yep.
So what do you got? What do you have here? Are these adults, kids?
We call this the men's section. Vans doesn't do men's and women's. They put both sizes on the box. So It makes it easier for me, harder for the customer, because they don't know what size they're asking for sometimes because they just see whatever's on the box. But
there you go. I like that one. That's pretty cool. We've also got. Oh, those are cool right there. Very nice.
Vans is always.
That I left back over here. Now the Friday the 13th.
Vans always does these little special packages. The day they come out is the only day we can get the sizes. I mean, we order them and then they're sold out and you can't go back and find them anymore. That's the last of all of those. Yeah.
Okay, so.
Star Wars, there was probably 12 shoes in that series, and we have one left now. That was a long time ago, of course. The most recent one for us was a Halloween a year and a half ago. That was a Scary Movie package. There were 2 other shoes there we sold out of. We had T-shirts and hoodies that went with it.
Well, you always have a great selection of Vans.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff everybody says you can't find this stuff anywhere else other than maybe the Vans store. So
I think I picked out my Vans that
the black and gray. Yeah.
I'm looking at the checkered ones here.
All right.
And he just happened to have that box right there.
That looks like a good fit.
Look at these babies, man. So, Bruno, you've got the tail end of winter here, and then we're going into spring and sports and just, things are obviously changing as far as what you're wearing on your feet. So what do you recommend?
Well, the weather, I mean, we had snow here, about 45 minutes ago? It was snowing outside. Sandals will be coming in. We always do a huge business with saltwater sandals for the kids and the ladies.
So do you wear socks with those?
No. Nope, that's a water sandal. It doesn't look, I mean, it's dressy. We've sold them for wedding parties. They are dressy. You can just wear them for anything. All right, like I was talking about the saltwater sandals for spring. That's them. The new colors will be in, oh crap, it'll probably be next week. Keep forgetting this is a short month. So yeah, March 1st we'll have 3 new colors besides all the standards.
Now
And every year it's huge with the kids.
Spring.
Yep. Easter baskets too.
Can't wait till spring.
No.
We've got Easter early this year.
Is it?
And rain and snow mixed all week, so we're still into winter. And but man, I can hardly wait till those nice summer
Yeah. Yeah,
warm days.
I haven't gotten a sandal shipment in yet. Most of that stuff we wait till March 1st. I mean, there's no point. Like you said, it was snowing out here an hour ago.
Exactly.
So, no, I haven't even moved my winter stuff to the back shelf yet and brought the sandals up. So
No,
that'll be next week. Hopefully the sun comes out.
So tell us a little bit about all this stuff through here. Looks like a lot of youth stuff.
Oh, this is all women's here. Like I say, Vans doesn't do men's or women's, but we just display the stuff that might be a little more women looking. Lots of flowers, which aren't over in the men's section. You got the New Balance Athletics on the other side. But yeah, the whole front half of the store is women's. The back half is the men's. Skechers slip-ins, those are advertised all the time on TV. That's, I don't know if you've seen the ads where they just shove their foot into them, standing up.
Okay, so
Skechers slip-ins.
these are all women.
Yep,
right?
all women still.
Okay, so now more stuff for gals here. Bruno, tell us a little bit about.
Oh, you just got your
here.
dressier stuff, boots, the Skechers slip-ins. I'm sure you've seen them advertised. It's
Those
the only
are pretty
reason.
cool, aren't they?
Only reason I brought them in the store is every time I turned on the TV, I was seeing an ad for them.
Right.
I don't have a sales rep that tells me about this stuff, so I saw the ads, got a hold of Skechers, and said, "Hey, let me bring some of these in." They sold out, and yeah, we can't keep them on the shelves now. They just fly.
A lot of stars slipping those things
Yep.
on.
Yep.
I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe that George Costanza.
Is he doing an ad now? I know that Tony Roma and Martha Stewart and some gymnast does like a double backflip and the shoe doesn't fly off.
She does,
So
she
yeah.
does, yeah. And I know that years ago it wasn't the slip-on Skechers, but it was Skechers. Ringo Starr.
Oh, is he there?
Yeah. So
Cool.
yeah, those are pretty cool. And I like these. This is, I'm going to school, and I'm going to be a rock star while I'm there, right?
Yep.
You'd sell a lot of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are fantastic.
Yep.
So that's what you got? You still have stuff for...
A little bit of winter stuff left for today.
But the best part about this store is you get one-on-one treatment. If you don't know your shoe size,
Yeah.
you're going to find out what their shoe size
Just
is.
fitted a kid before you guys came in. I think they were leaving when you walked in.
Yeah, so you
measured
don't,
them up
just
and-
sit there in an aisle by yourself.
Right.
And
Sit Indian style on the floor, putting shoes on,
exactly.
leaving a mess for me.
There's
Yeah.
actual furniture here that
Yep.
you can sit down. Brunswig Shoes, downtown Chehalis, here since 19...
In this building since 1937.
And
Then
I have to say that I probably laid on this ground at some point and sulked when my mom brought me in here for shoes when I was...
I remember playing hide and seek under the tables,
Yeah.
driving Dad nuts.
Exactly. So, Bruno, thanks for having us.
You bet. Thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much for my new Vans.
You got it.
I will love them, and then I'll probably trash these too. So.
All right.
Hey, it's back. We're heading back out on the road, and who knows where we'll be next on the Mohney Show. Thank you. The real estate market is changing, and John L. Scott can answer your questions with a free market analysis. If you're a homeowner, it's really important to get a current market analysis. It only takes a few minutes of your time and contains valuable information about your biggest investment. This might be the year to make a move and take advantage of this market. For your free market analysis, see Laura Lee today at John L. Scott, 900 West Main in Centralia.